What's going on, guys? My name is Dillard. I come back at you with another podcast today. I have a special guest from John Boy Media himself. His name is Kyle. Would you like to introduce yourself, my good sir?
Yeah, man. I mean, Dillard and I have known each other from Twitter for a little while now. I call him DB. So if you guys hear me drop the DB reference, that's what I'm talking about. But I'm Kyle Kondor. Like DB said, I work for John Boy Media. I'm just a content editor for the guys. It's a full-time job, though, so it's pretty awesome, kind of a dream job. Those guys are great. I always say I'll be a bigger fan of John Boy and Jake and the rest of the gang than I'll ever be of myself, just because they're so good at what they do. And they bring so much entertainment to baseball. And really, that's all we're trying to do is engage people with baseball who might not have otherwise ever watched. And I feel like John Boy is the king of that. And I'm just so happy to be helping him out with it. And, of course, you and I are diehard Yankees fans. I'm a little bit more unapologetic than you are. Like, I'm not afraid to come at the other 29 teams and fan bases. But I just think it makes baseball fun.
Yeah.
I'm not afraid to debate. Let's do it,
Yeah, 110%.
Mm-hmm.
So, was there anything in particularly that you want to discuss involving yesterday's performance? I mean, there's not
Oh,
really
man.
much to be said outside of Tanaka.
So, of course, we're recording this on Saturday, August 8th, right before the doubleheader in Tampa. And yesterday's game was the 1-0 shutout. So I'd rather not talk about it, but for the sake of podcasting and such, I guess we should just throw a couple thoughts out there. And really what we wanted more of was good starting pitching, and we got that. But ironically, we didn't get anything else yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
A fielding mistake by Gary, the pass ball there lost us the game. And the bats were completely dead. The Yankees had runners in scoring position because of walks on multiple occasions and couldn't get anybody in.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think that's one of those weird outlier games. Of course, you can't quite laugh at it the way you would during a 162-game season, because with 60 games, you want to try to win as many as you can. But at the end of the day, more than half the league is making the playoffs this year. We're getting 16 teams in. So you can afford to lose some, and it's not the end of the world.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Pretty much the only thing I would have to add to it is the only positive silver lining in that game is definitely Tanaka.
Oh, yeah.
Especially that sweeping slider he had.
Mm-hmm.
That was absolutely filthy. I think a lot of people tend to forget just how ridiculous the Rays pitching is from top to bottom.
Yeah.
I mean, it starts with Blake Snell, Glass now, and Charlie Morton, and then works down, to like Chaz Rowe.
Yeah.
Like people were wondering, it's like people were like freaking out about, his breaking ball. And I'm like, have you guys not been paying attention to this guy? This guy has nasty stuff. And that's the thing with the Rays. It's just like, I tweeted about it yesterday. I was like, everybody in the AL East, or probably pretty much baseball in general, should be thankful that they don't have an offensive lineup like the Yankees or the Dodgers, or this team would be pretty much untouchable.
Oh, yeah. Dude, their pitching is so good. It's one guy to the next every time. So I'm weird. When I watch games, I love when players work the count, because it always means that like a team's going to be forced against their will to bring in a new pitcher.
Mm-hmm.
And when you're playing a team that doesn't have a great bullpen like the Phillies, you're just praying that they have to bring in a new guy. But you're playing the Rays, and I'm like, okay, like Hicks had a nice long at bat there. He walked. Great. This means we're going to get to see a new pitcher. But every time they brought somebody in, it's a Diego Castillo or a Chaz Rowe, and you're just like, oh my goodness, like this doesn't end.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then like even during a doubleheader today, the Yankees are going to be throwing out like Nick Nelson or something like that, and the Rays are going to be running out just a bunch of studs, one after the other. So it's going to be a headache all season long, and it's kind of a team that you hope gets taken care of by somebody else in the playoffs before we have to go against them.
Mm-hmm. That's very true.
Yeah.
I'm not usually the one about the trade rumors circulating.
Mm-hmm.
I know like there's always that part of the season where there's like trade rumors and people just making trade deals left and right. But I have seen some interesting trade ideas. I know I've seen some things involving trying to get Lance Lynn again, which I'm not really sure if I'm too hooked on Lance. I know he's been incredible this season. I know we need starting pitching, but it's more the fact that maybe it would work out this season just because there is no fans. But I think he might be pretty much another Sonny Gray in the sense that he can't handle the atmosphere. So, like, moving forward, do you want a Lance Lynn for long term? You know what I mean?
Didn't they just pay him too or something like that?
The Rangers.
I think the Rangers paid Lance Lynn after last season. But I can't imagine it was a long deal by any stretch of the imagination because he is older. I mean, Lance Lynn's got to be what now, 33, 34, or something like that?
33. It was a 3-year, $30 million contract till 2021. So
maybe
you'll be getting pretty much 1 year of service time from him if you trade for him.
Yeah.
But it's like I know a lot of people were circulating.
Well, you broke up there for a second.
The Rangers.
Hold on, David. You broke up there for a second. You said I know a lot of people were circulating, and that's exactly what you broke off.
Oh, sorry about that.
No, it's all good.
I was talking about Miguel Andujar. And I know there was a lot of news circulating, or just not necessarily news, but I guess like people throwing out trade ideas about, giving Clint Frazier and possibly Miguel Andujar to the Rangers for Lance Lynn. And I'm thinking, I'm like, Andujar's value, I don't think you understand how low his value is. I mean, his defense, like I told you on my podcast, I'm usually a broken record when I say this, but Andujar's defense is beyond atrocious. It's pretty much the worst among all qualified third basemen as of 2018. His hitting, he hasn't – I mean, it could be he needs to get more consistent reps because he hasn't had consistent reps since 2018. As you know, he was a doubles machine in 2018, outstanding hitter.
But he did exceed his expected numbers that year, and it's because doubles don't typically find the gap as often as he did that season. You're going to find a glove on most of the doubles that landed for him. So I think his rookie season was just a little bit misleading. You said it yourself, his trade value is low, and it's been low for a while. And that's why we're all sitting here screaming on Twitter, like, trade Andujar, trade Clint Frazier. Like, we act like they're not thinking about this stuff, and they are. And they've offered these guys to several teams. And you can't just get a stud for one of those guys. Like, the Rangers likely would not do Lance Lynn for Miguel Andujar, even straight up.
Well, that's the thing. A lot of people, I don't think, value defense, because personally, me, I'm a big analytics guy. So I don't just look at it from hitting, but I also look at it from a fielding perspective.
Sure.
Any team is going to be concerned with either both Miguel Andujar and Clint Frazier because both of their defense is mediocre at best.
Yeah, dude, they're like the same player. I keep saying this. I've said it since day one. They're very, very similar players. Really solid, sporadic bats. Don't take a lot of pitches. Won't walk a lot, but they'll hit for power. Can't field worth a damn. So just very similar players, and not players that a team is going to take on for one of their stars. They'll get something. The Rangers will get something better than Miguel Andujar and or Clint Frazier for Lance Lynn at the deadline this year.
They would want to dump some prospects. That's what I was talking about. I was talking about not necessarily there being a possibility of a trade happening because I don't see it happening, but I was basically like making a hypothetical statement on how much I would absolutely love to have Mike Clevenger. Yeah. Because Mike Clevenger is absolute stud. But, if you look back at it, there's no way you're getting Mike Clevenger for someone like Andujar or Frazier. They're going to want – they might even start at, the Martian.
Yeah, Domingo.
Or they're going to want someone like Clark Schmidt. And it's just like, are you willing to give up those pieces for the future? Because the good thing about the Yankees is they're very young in the sense that there's a lot of good pieces coming out of there, both from the starting pitching end, like Schmidt and Garcia, and the bullpen. Like, there's a lot of bullpen arms that are coming out of there too. I know Nelson got hit hard the other night, but I still have a lot of potential in the guy.
Yeah.
A lot of faith and trust in the guy. You Luis Gil and Abreu, like the list goes on and on. Like, there's a lot of young talent in the farm system, but are you willing to give that up? Considering Cashman is pretty notorious for hugging prospects, which isn't always a bad thing.
No, it's not. No. You think somebody like Clevenger is on the block?
I don't necessarily think he's on the block. I think it's more just like my heart telling me that I want Clevenger, or it's like it's also kind of like I really like an underrated choice. I would love to have Matt Olson in pinstripe uniform. Like, I would absolutely love to. I don't think like a majority of people are talking about how underrated of a first baseman Olson is. Don't get me wrong. I love Luke Voit. I adore Luke Voit.
Matt Olson, you're talking probably top 5 in the game right now, first baseman. If not like top 3. Like
Yeah.
he's up there, almost up there with like the Freddie Freemans of the world at this point. I mean, because he could do it on both sides. That dude rakes and he could play the field. So,
Yeah.
I
And
mean, these are just obviously these are dream targets and two guys that I'd probably give up the whole farm for.
like having
Dude,
kind of off topic, but having Chapman, Simeon, and Olsen in the same infield is just ridiculous. Like that's probably the best, you know, basically like shortstop, first base, third base combo in the league. Like for defense, and they're all like excellent hitters with Simeon
sure.
breaking
Man,
out
it took
last
Simeon
season.
such a long time to figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
He was so bad defensively at first. He was horrid.
Mm-hmm.
And last year, he just came out of nowhere. He was raking and playing defense. Yeah, I mean, trying to think, the Dodgers have a really good infield, obviously. They have a really good everything. The Yankees have a good lot of things, too.
Their
But,
outfield is absurd. I mean, I know it's kind of off topic from like anything Yankees material,
yeah,
but
but
like I've never understood why there is a not like a large portion, but a good enough portion for me to question it on why there's a good portion of Dodgers fans that don't want Jock on their team. I've never understood that because you have Jock, you have Mookie, and you have Bellinger in the outfield. That is like one of the
isn't
best outfield combinations in the league.
the story with Jock, what, there's a certain side pitcher that he can't hit worth a damn. And I forget what, he can't hit lefties or righties, one of the two. And it's just like so bad to the point where he doesn't even sniff the lineup on games where it's either when lefties or righties pitch. But I don't know, man. I would love to have a Jock on my team, but didn't he almost get traded this offseason? Wasn't he like on the Angels and then it got
He
like rebuked?
Yeah, he was basically like it was almost a done deal that he was on the Angels, and
Yeah.
then I really can't even tell you like what happened. That was one of the most odd deals that I've ever just was on the Angels, and then one minute he was just not on the Angels. Like it
Yeah,
didn't really make any sense or have any correlation.
it is definitely weird.
I
As
was
we move
actually
as we
oh,
move on, I'm super curious now because I know there's one side that he can't hit. Okay,
it's
ready? Versus
yeah.
righties, he hits his OPS career is 860. Versus lefties, his OPS career is 575.
It's
300 points higher against righties than
mhm.
lefties.
Yeah, it's not great, but the thing that I like about Jock is that that might be the case against lefty pitching, but he's still going to post around 2.5 to 3 WAR a season, and I
Yeah.
think that's really I mean we can admit that most outfielders in the game are the best players in the league. You know, Aaron Judge, Mookie Betts, Christian
Yeah.
Yelich, Cody
Well,
Bellinger, but
right.
that's more than solid for an outfielder.
For sure.
So,
And the reason those guys, that's because you need more of a reliable defensive guy in the infield.
mm,
Outfielders, they're going to get the job done regardless. Whereas guys in the infield, you want a reliable guy at shortstop that might not also be the best hitter in the world.
mhm.
And you see things like what happens to Andujar. It's like, okay, so he sucks at third, but he can still hit. So let's see if we could put him in the outfield and have him just be league average. Whereas if he's at third, he's going to be way below league average. And that way we keep his bat in the lineup. But then when you plug him in for what did he play? Probably 6 games this season, and he was just atrocious offensively. It's like, well, now he's worthless. Let's ship him somewhere else, see if he can figure things out, and then we'll bring him back if we have some injuries and things like that. But if this team even stays moderately healthy, it would not shock me if Andujar never plays for the Yankees
Mhm.
again, honestly. There's a hot take for you. And it's not even that hot, to be honest.
No.
Like, a lot of fans, I bet you, including yourself, because you and I are very much on the same wave when it comes to this guy, would probably agree that there's a chance he never plays for the Yankees again.
He's hurting his value more and more the more that he plays, it seems like. And it
Yeah.
really hurts to say that because he had so much potential, especially with his 2018 season. And now you're just kind of wondering, well, we already know his defense was atrocious. You
Yeah.
know, we don't have to talk about that, but it's like his offensive production, it's like, was it a fluke now? You know, like you said earlier, the expected numbers, like he greatly exceeded those expected numbers
Yeah.
that he had set for him. So it's just like,
You're just simply
uh,
not supposed to be able to have that many doubles.
Pretty
This
much
is what it
extra
comes
base
down
hits.
to. I mean, if it goes over the fence, it goes over the fence. There's no stopping that. But to be able to find the gap and the foul line like he did in 2018 is just not something you can expect the player to keep up with.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times, no matter how hard those balls are hit, they're going to be hit at fielders. And this is the major leagues. Those plays are going to get made. So I kind of saw it from a mile away. It was the end of 2018. I wasn't on Yankees Twitter yet,
Mm-hmm.
but I was telling just friends that were other Yankees fans and stuff like that I wasn't a huge fan of this guy.
Mm-hmm.
And then he came back in 2019, and of course he ended up suffering the horrible injury that put him out for the year. And they said he was battling that right up until it happened. So I'm not going to criticize him too much, but even in the few games he played in 2019, he was just terrible.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. We'll see what happens. I'm rooting for the guy because as like a locker room guy and like a character and a human being and stuff like that. I mean, you can't ask for a better guy than Miguel Andujar.
Mm-hmm.
But man, you could just see him in that last day where he played both games in the doubleheader. His frustration was just visible. I mean, he was popping up and slamming the bat, and like he was hitting the ball. And when he got down to first base, when he was headed back to the dugout, you saw him like mouthing words to himself and stuff like that. So that was a side of Miguel Andujar we hadn't really seen before. And I feel like he knew going into that day there was a chance that this could be it for him. I didn't see it coming, but I'm also not surprised in the least bit that it happened and he's not on the team anymore.
Yeah, you did, like you said, you still gonna root for the guy because he's on your team. Like you don't want genuinely anybody to fail. At least I've never understood that concept of anybody like wanting anybody on your team to fail. It's kind of like the whole Glaber and Gary Sanchez thing. It's like, yeah, they need to step it up. You know, they're not playing at their level right now.
I think it's a matter of people wanting to be right. People make a hot take about a player. Like preseason, Dan Rourke and I, you guys don't know Dan Rourke. He's YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, another good guy just like me and DB. And we forced ourselves to make negative takes. And mine was that I think the Yankees won't re-sign DJ LeMahieu after the season because he's going to have a down year. That doesn't mean I'm rooting for it to happen. I hope the exact opposite happens, and that's exactly what's happened. And I want everybody to remind me that I made that bad take. Like, I hope Andujar comes back and hits 100 home runs for all I care. But I just he's a good person too. It's baseball, Yankees aside. Like just clearly a good guy.
Kind of off topic. I have to know what Dan's take was. What was his take?
Dan said that Gio Urshela was going to regress a lot.
Honestly, man, like that's honestly
Not the hottest take.
I can't disagree with Dan because I thought the same thing, and Gio continues to prove everybody wrong, at least offensively. It's like, geez, well, it just seemed like ever since he changed he made those adjustments where he was following through with his swing all the way.
Yeah.
It seems like that's just been like his lightning in a bottle ever since.
Yeah, I told him that it wasn't the hottest take in the world and he wasn't going to get killed for that. Like a lot of people were going to be like, sure, like I could see him regressing. And I was like, well, tell me what you think his OPS is going to be. And he was like upper 700s. And I'm like, nah, that's like, we'll take that. Like, give me Gio at third with like a 780 OPS this season. But can you help me? So you've said that you're an analytics guy, and I've known that for a while now. I would like to be, but there are just some areas where I'm not super well versed, and some areas where people will say some things about analytics, and I'm just like, that can't possibly be right. Can you help me understand why you said just right now that you like that Gio's proving people wrong with his bat? Like, wasn't it last year that his defense was not that good analytically? And why is that?
Pretty much defensive analytics love to hit Urshela hard. Specifically, I had to bring the numbers up for you specifically because I don't have them memorized.
It's a learning moment for me, man. Floor is yours.
But as far as 2019 is concerned, he only saved one run. So DRS basically means defensive runs saved. And that's a very important key element in the infield. Not as much outfield, you know, in the outfield, it's not that big of a deal. And just kind of off topic, that's why Aaron Judge is so ridiculously good in the outfield, not just as a hitter, but as a defender, because the amount of runs that Aaron Judge has saved in the outfield when that's not a key component as far as analytics and the outfield is concerned, it's just ridiculous with him and Mookie Betts. They're on a pretty much another world of their own. You already knew that, but basically DRS is more situated around the outfield. And then you have UZR, which stands for Ultimate Zone Rating. It basically combines every element possible of defense, such as range or double place turn and things like that. For last season, Gio had a negative 2.5. And I think the problem is, I don't think Gio is necessarily like a terrible defender, because he's not. I mean, one DRS saving only one defensive run last year isn't the best, while negative 2.5 UZR isn't great either. It's definitely below average, but it's not like atrocious like, Miguel Andujar or Rafael Devers for that matter.
Speaking of Devers, how good did he look against us in that Red Sox series? At third, too. He was making ridiculous plays, dude.
It basically made me like wonder. I'm like, has Devers finally made those adjustments? Because like we know he's good as a hitter. He's a very good hitter. And it pains me to say that because I don't like saying any Red Sox hitters are good. But, him, Martinez, and Bogarts are just ridiculous.
I'm just glad if we didn't sweep them the way we did, I probably wouldn't have even brought that up because I don't like to talk about it. But, like, we swept them. So I'm happy to say that Devers and Bogarts just looked absolutely insane in that series. I don't even know what their numbers were. And I'm sure – I don't remember Devers doing anything – oh, no, he had some homers.
Yeah, he had a few.
So those two looked ridiculous in that series.
Especially on Sunday. Sunday, Bogarts was locked in. I think he was 4 for 4. I mean, he was just seeing the ball. Yeah. But I guess the last thing I was going to say about the Urshela thing, just to like try and help you understand.
Yeah, sure.
Because for a while, like honestly, even me, the thing about analytics, I love analytics, but there's one. I will kind of go off topic a little bit and just say I'm not always on board with everything. Like there are still things that I question.
Yeah.
In a sense that expected numbers, that's probably one of the things that I was kind of like interested and fascinated with as far as Andujar is concerned. Because if there's one analytic that I'm always kind of leaning at and be like, I don't really know what it is, expected stats. Like people have expected average or expected slugging or, whatever the expected numbers that they're supposed to meet. I know you're not really supposed to actually treat those as specific numbers and more kind of like an average of the range that they could meet. So especially in younger players such as Andujar or Glaber or players that are just young in general, like a Tatis or a Juan Soto or something, it's kind of difficult for me to pinpoint what their expected numbers are going to be because we haven't seen a significant amount of time of them in the majors, if that makes any sense.
I get it.
So if there's one analytic that I'm always kind of like teeter-tottering on, it's definitely expected stats. But for Gio, it was really hard for me to understand why, because it just seemed like every play he was a highlight reel. But I think the problem is that a lot of people let the eye test do their judging, and instead of relying on the defensive metrics, and basically, like I said, the eye test is not the best measurement to use, in a sense that everybody will always remember the highlights because we all remember the highlights, but we don't always remember all the easy plays that Gio Urshela butchered, and we don't always remember all the plays that Gio didn't need to, make a Derek Jeter impression and throw while he's off balance when he could have clearly just, got into a good position and threw the ball without trying to make any flashy movements, if that makes any sense. Sure. It's still, in a sense, though, Gio Urshela's outs above average, which is a really, really good metric for defenders in general, both outfield and infield. He recorded pretty much above average last year. So Gio Urshela is one of those few incidents. It's just kind of like he is probably, as far as all defenders, maybe not all defenders, but one of the defenders in the league that he seems to fool everybody into thinking that he's like a top-notch defender. I think he's better than what the metrics are giving him, because if there's one metric that is very iffy, it's definitely defensive metrics, because it takes a while for them to implement them. And there's a lot of factors that go into
you guys, and I say you guys meaning the people who are very good with this stuff, say that before. So, of course, when you give people like me the idea that some of it might not work, I'm like, okay, I'm not even going to listen to that one at all. So, like, for me with the defensive metrics, I think that they've still got a little bit of a ways to go. And I also think, like, with how much technology we have now and how impressive the learning rate has been, and just the new things that are coming out, I think like 10 years from now, even the smartest baseball minds are going to look back and be like, yeah, maybe we weren't doing that one exactly right. And I think it's going to be a lot with defense that's what they're going to say.
And
And
that's
I just
this
can't wait to
might
see
be
where it goes.
yeah. I don't think this would be a hot take. I think this is more just me encouraging people. But I highly encourage people to not just use one stat, but use like every possible tool at their disposal. Like I know a lot of people, there are some people in the advanced analytics community that loves to just use like B war and F war, like Fangraphs war and baseball reference war. But I would highly encourage you to use everything from, I'm not a fan of average in per se. But I would definitely use, OBP, slugging, WOBA, WRC plus, just pretty much every offensive and defensive metric. I think people should I would encourage people to try and educate themselves on it. If you just watch baseball to watch it, then that's cool too.
That's
You don't
fine.
have
Yeah,
to.
yeah. Just
That's cool.
enjoy
I'm not.
yourself.
I'm not crapping on people who do that. That's completely fine.
Yeah, yeah.
I have a lot of family members who just watch the game. They don't care about stats. They don't care about even average or RBIs. They just care if the team wins. That's cool too. But if you're definitely one of those people that likes to criticize players, you need to educate yourself and know what you're talking about, and don't make yourself look like an ass.
Yeah.
That's all I'm going to say.
I get it, man. I have a good talking point that I just thought of, and we can end it on this because we don't want to go too long here. We don't want to bore you guys, anybody watching this. But, of course, we go on all day long. So I have a good talking point that I thought of as you were speaking there. You said you don't like batting average. Neither do I. I still will – when I look at a player's stats, first glance is straight to OPS for me. And WAR. OPS and WAR. Those are the first two. Because if I look at the OPS, I could tell OPS plus OPS, whichever way you want to go. That's what could tell me how good they are offensively. And then I compare that to WAR. And if like a player has a fairly low OPS but a high WAR, I'm like, okay, that must mean they're pretty good defensively. And that's coming from somebody who loves stats but doesn't fully understand the advanced analytics. And I think that's a good way for somebody with the same mindset as me to go. I don't know what you think about that. But I will look later at batting average, because a guy like DJ LeMahieu has really made me second guess the value of batting average, because we watch him every single game, and it just seems like he has such a huge impact on every single game. But his OPS is never higher than a guy like Giancarlo's, and it's not even going to be close to a guy like Judge. And in many instances, Gio's OPS has been just as high as DJ's, or at least close. Of course, Gio has a high average too. They're very similar. I don't want to say they're similar offensively, but sure, they're similar, but Gio's not as good as DJ. There, I'll say that. So the other night, there is a runner on third with 2 outs, and we're playing, was it against the Phillies? And we're down by 1, and we pinch hit Judge in the top of the 8th. I don't know if you remember this scenario.
I actually was at work at the time,
Okay.
but I did hear a lot of people complaining about it, and I do have my fair share of opinions on the matter.
So with a runner on third and 2 outs, a single is the same. Now, of course, a homer puts you ahead, and I believe we were down by 1, if I'm not mistaken. A single ties the game, and that's all we really want. Why not pinch hit DJ with a runner on third? Because he's so much more likely to get a hit than Aaron Judge is, and that would score the run. And then in the next inning, if you're still losing, DJ didn't get the job done, pinch hit Judge with no one on base, because he could tie the game with a homer, which he's much more likely to do than DJ is. So there are some instances where I still think that, look at the guy with batting average, and I don't get why they didn't do that in that situation. It's just weird. I just felt like before the inning even started, they said, if we need somebody, it's going to be Judge. And they didn't really think, oh, crap, we might be in this situation and need DJ instead of Judge. And I don't know. I feel like you'd have been just kicking yourself watching that game, like screaming at the TV. I don't know. So what do you think about batting average in situations like that?
Okay, so Three things, and the third thing we'll end it off on because then it's a question I'll direct to you. It does involve, it actually involves DJ and it involves Luke, and it's just a hypothetical scenario.
Yeah.
So the first thing, the first reason, like the first topic to your point, as far as average is concerned, the reason I don't like average is because it ignores things like walks,
Of course.
and I don't
homers.
think I think walks are very underrated, and especially with Gio. I think it was a 10 pitch at bat with Gio walking last night. Things like that can really dictate the entire outcome of a game. That's why I'm such a huge supporter of Aaron Hicks. His average isn't the best. He's going to be around like a 220, 230 guy for you, but he's going to get on base for you a lot. And that's why I love the guy, because he walks a lot. His walk rate is pretty high, and he's going to get on base for you. That's why I much rather prefer OBP, because it basically doesn't just have, it doesn't matter that you walked, basically average treats walks as they're meaningless. And I don't think walks are meaningless. So that's pretty much why I'm not.
We would have loved for Gary to walk with the bases loaded yesterday.
That would have been so nice. Gary Sanchez is another story. I love Gary. He's got to get going. There's no excuse.
That at bat by Gio right before Gary, it's like, that's why in a lot of situations you take an average guy like Gio over an OPS guy like Gary. But mind you, right now Gary's not an average guy or an OPS guy, so kind of off topic. Anyway, go ahead.
All right, so like I said, this might be a hot take, but I'm all about hot takes, and
why not?
I can't. I mean, obviously everyone's a huge Judge supporter, but I'm going to go like across the earth and support Judge here. And I'm going to say that even though the Yankees lost, in hindsight, it might have not looked like the best idea. I think in that situation, I think you'd rather go with Judge than DJ personally. Okay. The reason I say that is because while DJ has a higher batting average, Judge has a significantly higher on-base percentage in his career than DJ LeMahieu does. His average may not be up there, but his slugging is higher, his on-base percentage is higher, his WOBA, his WRC+, all that is higher. It's actually crazy. I brought the stat.
Hold on a second, DB.
Even in 112 games played.
DB, you broke up there for a second. You said it's actually crazy, and then go
ahead. I was saying it's actually crazy to see just how much better Judge is than DJ. And a lot of people think DJ is our best player, and I'm like, that is a huge disrespect to Aaron Judge. Like, it's not even close. If we look at the numbers, in over 1,000 games played, 1,100 games at least, DJ is a 17.2 F4 player. And keep in mind, he was aided by Coors Field in his career.
Yeah, but look how much better he was in his first year as a Yankee than pretty much every season he had as a Rocky. I think he had like one or two really good seasons with the Rockies, but the rest were pretty poor. And that's why I thought he was going to regress a lot this year. But, man, has he already proven me wrong.
I think it's more just the fact that while DJ had an insane season, I couldn't have went out there and predicted that he was going to have that type of season. No. There's no way anyone could have, for that matter.
I don't think you could have predicted that he was going to be batting .420 right now again this year.
But the crazy thing is, even though DJ is batting .422 right now, specifically, Judge is still the overall better player than he is.
For sure, but it's in that situation. Like, I get the on-base percentage, and obviously Judge is a better overall player than DJ. I was never arguing that. But, like, the on-base percentage, in my opinion, doesn't really factor in there because we didn't want Judge to walk. We don't want first and third, 2 outs, and I don't remember who was up next. I think it was Gary or Glaber that game because one of them led off the next inning after Judge struck out. We needed somebody to come up and just hit a single and get Giancarlo in from third, not somebody to walk and up their on-base percentage. So I just think it was that one situation, and you probably get a lot of people going back and forth, but I bet you more times than not, somebody's picking DJ in that situation. And I don't know, man.
If they pick DJ in that situation, am I going to if they pick DJ in that situation over Aaron Judge, am I going to be majorly upset about it? No, not necessarily. We can at least get that point across. I'm not going to be upset if in the end result, instead of going with Judge, it's going to be DJ. But if in my opinion, I think the reason that they went with Judge is because Judge is the overall better player in his career with significantly less games, innings played both out in the batter's box and in the field. That's
Yeah,
probably my reasoning. But like I said, if DJ's in that position, anything could happen. So,
for sure,
um,
man.
but the last thing I wanted to point, and then we can, like I said, we can end off this.
Sure.
This relates to DJ and Luke, and I've had multiple conversations with people about this, and it's kind of like what I said about if they had DJ in that spot instead of Aaron, would I be upset? No, of course not. It's one of those questions. So we always know that DJ is a leadoff hitter, correct? He's always leading off. So last year, a lot of people don't know this, but last year, Luke Voit actually had a higher on base percentage than DJ LeMahieu. And yeah, you could say Luke Voit had less plate appearances, but if you actually specifically pick the option in Fangraphs where it's like 500 plate appearances minimum. So it basically puts DJ and Luke on an even playing field, gives them the same
500's a
amount of
lot.
plate. Yeah. Luke Voit actually had a higher on base percentage than DJ LeMahieu did. And just like you said, the average, he's going to hit regardless. DJ just hits. He's going to do DJ things. Would you be opposed to having Luke Voit in the leadoff spot more often just because he gets on base more often? And would you be opposed to DJ being somewhere in the third or maybe the cleanoff spot because DJ is going to hit and drive in runs? That's the thing about DJ. That was the one positive I will say about DJ. That is just he's exceeding my expectations in the sense that it doesn't matter if there's runners on the corners. It doesn't matter if there's a runner on second, runner on first, if there's nobody on base. DJ's going to hit regardless. So would you be opposed to having DJ get more opportunities in that spot where he can score runs? Because last year, DJ in a leadoff spot had 102 RBIs. Like that's almost unheard of in a leadoff spot. So it's like, would you be opposed? I mean, maybe Aaron
Gio and them at the bottom.
I mean, you could even like maybe put Aaron Hicks in the leadoff occasionally, but I would be more situated around Luke because a lot of pitchers love to make first pitch mistakes, and Luke Voit loves to capitalize on those pitches, especially fastballs. He's aggressive. He's going to swing on the first pitch, and he just gets on base. So,
I'm mad at you for pointing this out to me because now I'm not going to be able to unthink this because I agree with you, dude. Like, I'm big on batting average is a little bit different than on base percentage in the sense that a single is more valuable than a walk because a single can drive in runners where a walk can't unless the bases are loaded. Now, if you lead off the game, a single and a walk are the same exact thing. We know that DJ doesn't walk that often, but he's more than likely to get on base with a single. Now, I'd rather him hit that single in the third spot after Luke Voit just walked to lead off the game, or Aaron Hicks or Judge. At one point, Judge was leading off for us for a little while. So sure, I'd much rather somebody like that be leading off than a guy who never walks but has an extremely high average because he hits a lot of singles. And by the time DJ comes up third in the game, we can hope that Hicks is on first and Judge is on second. Shoot, maybe they let off the game with 2 walks. And then DJ hits a single, and we get the party started. Whereas DJ singles to lead off the game, Hicks walks, and then Judge either strikes out or hits a homer or walks, which doesn't drive in a runner. I'm with you, man. It's something that I wish you hadn't brought up to me because now I'm not going to be able to unsee it. DJ has seemed like this perfect leadoff hitter to me all this time because it's just what we've been taught is that the guy with the high average is your leadoff hitter. He can run a little bit. He's a swift second baseman. That fits the leadoff hitter category. The only thing about DJ that's not a leadoff hitter is that he's 6'4", but, dude, that's not a hot take. It's just not something that I think many people have taken a step back to look at.
And that's the thing, like I told you about the Aaron Judge and DJ thing, if things would have been different, I wouldn't have been, like, upset about it or anything because I trust DJ. This is one of those things. It's just like if DJ continues to be the leadoff hitter for the rest of his career that he's with the Yankees, am I going to be upset about it? No.
No.
That's a good problem to have. Is you could have so many different lineup constructions with this. Like you could adjust the lineup in so many different ways, and this team will still win games. And I think that's what's so dangerous about this offense.
How about Talkman leadoff for the time being? Judge second, DJ third, Giancarlo fourth.
You like Talkman leading off?
I love Talkman, dude.
I like the respect. Okay. I love
Yeah.
the love that you're giving to Talkman because a lot of people are so against Talkman starting and they still want Gardy. And I'm like, Gardy's getting to the end of his ropes. You still have a lefty bat in Mike Talkman. Although he made a mistake the other night, he is usually a pretty solid base runner with good speed.
Yeah, dude. He's so
And
good.
and he has a lot more service time in him than Gardy does now. And that's why
Yeah.
I'm such a fan of him. And he's elite defensively. His
Dude, so
defense
good.
is incredible.
Dude, Talkman is I mean, I'm not saying he's fantastic at all the different tools, but he's a 5-tool player.
Mhm.
Like he's good. He literally does every aspect of the game well.
Mhm.
And you can't ask for much more than that. I think he's a perfect leadoff hitter because he sees a ton of pitches too. I don't even have the stats up in front of me. I just know every time that Talkman's up, I feel like it gets to like a 3-1 count. So I don't know, man. I love Talkman, and I wouldn't mind him being leadoff. I just don't think it's going to happen because I don't know. Maybe at some point somebody will realize the point you're making, but we'll see. I just think everybody loves DJ in the leadoff spot so much. I can't really see them shifting that too much, but it gives the lineup some more depth if you bury a guy like DJ a little bit lower. And now you get to push back guys like Hicks and Glaber and stuff like that, and even Giancarlo. So I don't know. We'll see. Maybe it'll happen. Maybe someone will hear you.
I mean, like I said, if it doesn't happen, I'm not going to be upset. It's no big deal. It's just pondering ideas. And the one thing that always comes to mind is last year against Lucas Giolito, which we know, he didn't get off to a hot start, but he is a very good pitcher. He's the White Sox's #1 pitcher. You could
Yeah.
consider him an ace.
He was one of my keepers in fantasy baseball this year.
Oh, yikes. That must have been bad for you during the first game of the season against the Twins.
It was.
But the reason I always point that out is just because it always reminds me of the game that the Yankees played against him last year. I don't remember which game it was specifically in the 4-game
super
series.
early in the year.
Yeah, I want to say it was game 1 of the 4-game series in Chicago. But Luke Voit was leading off. One of the few times he led off. First pitch, right down the middle, bombs a home run like 400-plus feet to center field. And it's just like, Luke's going to do that for you. So
yeah, I love Luke Voit. I mean, this team's just so deep. These are good problems to have.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're sitting here talking about who should be leadoff, and they're all good players. So, oh man, we could go on all day though, brother. We got to do this again.
Yeah, for sure, definitely. So, is there anything else you want to get off your chest?
Oh, dude.
Any other hawks?
Like I'm saying, man, we could go on literally all day long. If it was up to me, dude, we'd sit here all day long. We got a doubleheader to catch, and I'm sure we'll be back and forth on Twitter and stuff like that. I do think when you post this, after you post it, you should clip out the part of you saying DJ should be hitting not leadoff and post that to Twitter and just see what people say, and I'll get your back, dude. I promise.
All right, I got you. Yeah. I want to create some conversation among people and see what they think.
Oh, dude, that's the fun part. And the people who get so up in arms about it just need to calm down a little bit. You know what I mean?
For real.
So, I think that's just what makes it fun, dude.
Mm-hmm. All righty. Well, is there anything else you want to say? Because you'll definitely be back in the future of podcasts. I haven't talked to Dan, but I'd definitely like to get Dan on here eventually too.
Dan's so good, dude. Dan is really good, and he and I are going to keep doing a few things together regularly. Maybe the three of us could get on here together at some point because that would be really cool. Dan is the biggest Aaron Judge stan in the entire world. So
it's a good person to stan.
Yeah, it is. But sometimes I'll just pick on Dan a little bit. I'll be like, would you relax, dude? Like, okay, would you relax? Like, he's not Babe Ruth, all right?
Mm-hmm.
So, I don't know. I just like to pick on him. But, yeah, dude, Dan's awesome. And you got to get him on here at some point. I appreciate you having me on, though, dude.
No, I appreciate you. This is an amazing opportunity. I just love getting, as many guests as possible.
Yeah.
It's nice to hear other people's thoughts and opinions, not just from Twitter, but actually hear because, you can only type so much in a significant amount of time compared to speaking and then talking about multiple things a significant amount of time. So
of course,
it's always nice to get opinions from other people, especially you, because, we've been following each other for, I don't even know how long, at least maybe a year and a half.
Dude, I started my Twitter account last May. So it's going on a year and a few months now. And I think that I've followed you and you followed me since probably as soon as I created it. And I feel like we've grown as to be friends on there. Even there are certain people that when you debate with, you feel like it's oh man, this guy needs to relax a little bit. But when you and I go back and forth, it's we're going to be cool after. We're just having, a fun baseball debate. And I think that's what makes baseball and just watching sports and being a sports fan in general is so much fun.
Mhm.
So let's keep it up, man. Let's give the people what they want. People like controversy and debates on Twitter, so I'm always here for that.
Alrighty. Well, I hope everyone enjoyed the podcast. We'll definitely have Kyle back on in the future for sure. You can bet that. You can guarantee it. Some other people, maybe I can get Dan on. He's not with John Boy right now, is he?
No, man, but I keep trying to convince him, dude, because he's so damn good at this stuff. But he's big with his Yankee Avenue stuff. Just another page that big Yankees fans should go follow because he's so good at it, man.
I'll actually link Dan's stuff because I really like Dan's stuff. So even though Dan he had nothing to do with this podcast, I'll link his stuff because it's really good stuff. You guys.
It's funny, man. I feel like every time I end up on somebody's show, I go on like a 3-minute convo just about Dan Rourke. So
I mean,
I'm
he's
gonna tell him too. As soon as I get off here, I'm gonna text him and be like, "Yo, Dan, I was just on with DB. Like, we just wouldn't stop talking about you." So.
Alrighty, that'd probably be a good time for me to DM him and be like, hey, "You wanna come on a podcast?"
Dude, do it, bro. And if he gives you any like questions about it, I'm be like, "Bro, Dan, if you don't get on DB's podcast, like, so." I know you both have good YouTube channels too, so that'd be good for you guys to like kind of help each other grow and stuff like that. And as soon as we get off of here, dude, I'm gonna post a little screenshot of us and be like, "Man, I finally linked up with DB. Super exciting! Can't wait for you guys to hear this." So,
alrighty,
appreciate you, man.
Thank you so much, Kyle. I really appreciate it.
Got you, dude.
A lot to me. And thank you for everyone watching. Definitely, if you have more guests that you have ideas for, definitely let me know. And then especially when Kyle comes back on, if you guys have any questions, definitely give us some questions. If they're hot takes, they're very controversial, please let us know, DM us or tweet at us.
That stuff is fun. Like, we want to be old takes exposed. You know what I mean? Like, that stuff is fun. So never hold back.
All right. Well, that's about it. I will see you guys later. And this has been Kyle and Dillard on the podcast. I think it's number 19 or 20. But I hope you guys have a wonderful day. Enjoy the game tonight, and hopefully the Yankees win.